Welcome back, guys. Today we're going to continue our college football predictions with Week 13, aka the final week of the regular season and rivalry week. Now, last week I had one of my best weeks of the whole season. I went 23-5, and I can attribute most of that record with SEC teams playing no-name schools, although one of those SEC schools lost to a no-name school. And last week wasn't that eventful. I think this week will be eventful, especially with our game of the week. Some of you already know what it is. But before we get into our predictions, a reminder that I will not be doing Indiana and Purdue, as both of these teams are under 5 wins. It's pretty irrelevant for me to do a prediction on them. And Vanderbilt and Tennessee, given how bad Vanderbilt has been. And we're going to start off on Thursday night, Thanksgiving night, where the Ole Miss Rebels will take on the Mississippi State Bulldogs. And in this game, I am going to take Ole Miss to win. I don't think Mississippi State is that great of a team. I know, and they recently fired their coach a week or two ago. I can't recall. But yeah, I'm rolling with Ole Miss to win. And that transitions us to Black Friday games. We have quite a few of these. Starting off with Oklahoma hosting the TCU Horned Frogs. You know, TCU last week, they became bowl eligible. In Oklahoma, well, they beat BYU, and you could thank a pick 6 for that. And I think Oklahoma, they're going to need some help getting in that Big 12 title game. So I got them winning here. I'm going to go ahead and give them the win here. And hopefully Oklahoma State will lose this week. That way they could get a chance to play Texas. Following that, we have the Miami Hurricanes traveling to Boston College to take on the Eagles. Miami lost to Louisville, and that school just can't seem to do anything right. And meanwhile, Boston College, they too suffered a loss. Can't remember against who, but I know they lost. Oh, it was against Pitt, whom I pick against. And I feel like every time I pick against Pitt, they win. And every time I pick for Pitt, they lose. And with that being said, I am going to take Miami to win this game. I think they're the more talented team, but I will not be surprised if Boston College pulls it off. It might take a Hail Mary to do it, but who knows? Then we have the Iowa Hawkeyes taking on the Nebraska Cornhuskers. For Iowa, a tumultuous season they had. They're now going to the Big Ten championship game. They clinched their spot last week after a 15-13 win over Illinois. Meanwhile, Nebraska blew a lead against Wisconsin. And they need this win to become bowl eligible. Now, this game is going to be an Iowa game. I'm not expecting a lot of points. You never expect a lot of points whenever Iowa takes the field. And I've been torn with this game. But I'm going to roll with the home team in this one. I think Nebraska do enough to win this game to get them to bowl eligibility. And then we have the Missouri Tigers taking on the Arkansas Razorbacks. In Missouri, they got a win last week against Florida, where they had to use a last-second field goal to get that win on a 4th and 16. And Arkansas, well, they've been the most they're going to be one of the disappointing teams of 2023 because they're a lot better than what their record indicates. But they just couldn't get it done. And because they can't get it done, and Missouri has been riding on a hot streak, I am taking the Tigers to win. Might be a New Year's Six Bowl in play for them. That's something to keep an eye on. And then we have Texas Tech taking on the Texas Longhorns. Texas, they've been getting by with wins. I mean, last week, yes, they got a double-digit victory over Iowa State, but they have not looked like the Texas we know for them for. Could it be maybe it's because of the injury to the Brooks who tore his ACL last week? Could it be that? Who knows? But luckily, they get to close their season at home against Texas Tech, who became bowl eligible last week after a win against Baylor. And I think Texas will probably get back to establishing some of those things that made them a top 5 team earlier this season. I'm going to roll with the Longhorns to win and clinch a spot in the Big 12 title game. Following that, we have the Penn State Nittany Lions taking on the Michigan State Spartans. And this game is not going to be in Spartan Stadium. It's going to be in Ford Field for whatever reason. This season's been a season to forget for Michigan State. And while Penn State's been okay, they just haven't been good against elite competition. But I think since it's not elite competition, I think Penn State will close their season on a win, giving them another 10-win season. And then we have probably the second choice of mine for game of the week. Oregon State traveling to Oregon on what will be the final Civil War in the foreseeable future. As of today, Oregon State does not have a conference, but I heard they're working things out with the Mountain West, but that's neither here, can't confirm or deny that. Oregon State, whom I picked last week, didn't really pull off the upset against Washington. And Oregon, they're on a hot streak. Now, I think this game's going to be, given that this is the final Civil War, this is going to be I think it's going to be closer than what people think. And if you recall, Oregon State beat Oregon last year. And I think that's going to be in Oregon's mind. I think Oregon's going to go for revenge, and they will play, and I've got them winning and playing Washington in the Big Ten, in the Pac-12 title game. Now we're on to Sunday. We have the University of Houston taking on the UCF Knights. Houston is not bowl eligible anymore. UCF needs a win, and because they need a win to become bowl eligible, I am going to take the Knights to win. Then we have a rivalry game, the Battle of Kentucky, where the University of Kentucky will take on the Louisville Cardinals. Louisville has officially clinched a spot in the ACC championship game. They will be playing Florida State. In Kentucky, they lost to South Carolina. And even though they're already bowl eligible, they have not been looking good the last couple of weeks. Now for me, I've gone back and forth with this one. I think it's going to be closer to what people think. But in the end, I am going to roll with Louisville to win. They are at home. But I will say this game is going to be very, very close. And then we have Pitt and Duke. And if I pick against Pitt, that means they're probably going to win. If I pick for Pitt, they're going to lose. This game's at Duke. Duke has actually been reeling lately because they lost to Virginia. Joined the club as them and North Carolina are the only two teams in the ACC to lose to Virginia. And Pitt got a win over Boston College. I'm just going to go ahead and take Duke. And even though I despise the University of Duke, I'm not doing this because to get Pitt to win. But I am doing this because I actually think Duke is the better team. Hopefully, I don't know if Riley Leonard's coming back this year or not, but because it felt like when he got hurt, their season just went downhill. But I am taking Duke. And then we have Texas A&M traveling to LSU to take on the Tigers. And I'm going to roll with LSU to win because Jalen Daniels is on a tear. And the Heisman, he's not out of that Heisman race. Keep an eye out on that. And then we have Wake and Syracuse. Wake is out of bowl play. They got destroyed by Sam Hartman and the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. And Syracuse, they need one more win to become bowl eligible, but they're going to have to do it without Coach Dino Babers as he was fired last week. I feel like it was 1 or 2 seasons overdue. And because they need that final win, I am going to take Syracuse to win at home to close the season on a 6-win note and get to bowl eligibility. Then we have Colorado taking on Utah. Colorado they're out of bowl play as well. If Shedeur had an offensive line and the defense had a defense, this season Colorado could have easily had 6 wins this year. Utah, they've been descending lately. I don't know what from what, but I think this is a get-right game for them, as they'll close their Pac-12 career with a win, as both schools will transition into the Big 12. And then we have BYU taking on Oklahoma State. BYU needs this win to become bowl eligible. They have 5 wins so far. And Oklahoma State, they need a win to get into the Big 12 title game, because they own the tiebreaker over Oklahoma. And because they need this win, I am going to roll with Oklahoma State to win. Then we have Northwestern taking on Illinois. Illinois lost to Iowa. Northwestern beat Purdue. Northwestern, as tumultuous of their season has been, they're bowl eligible. And I honestly did not see this coming. They're probably one of the more surprising teams this year. Good for them. But in rivalry week, I am taking the home team. I'm taking Illinois to win. I don't expect a lot of points. And even though both schools are bowl eligible, I'm going to just roll with Illinois to win. Following that, we have the Battle of Arizona, where the Wildcats will take on the Sun Devils. Arizona has been red hot as of late, and I don't see that train stopping for nobody. And then we have the Battle of Virginia, where Virginia Tech will take on Virginia Cavaliers. Hey, Virginia got their 2nd win in the ACC, beating Duke. And Virginia Tech, they lost a heartbreaker to NC State at home that could have gotten the bowl eligibility. Now they need this win to become bowl eligible, and I think they're going to get this. I think they'll get this win. And before I move on, this is the first Virginia Tech and Virginia game since that terrible incident that happened last year. Just to say, our thoughts have not gone away about those 3 players from Virginia. May they all rest in peace. Following that, we have the Maryland Terrapins taking on the Rutgers Scarlet Knight. And I'm just going to go ahead and take Maryland to win on the road. And then we have the battle for the Little Brown Jug. Wisconsin taking on Minnesota. Minnesota got destroyed by Ohio State, and Wisconsin got the bowl eligibility thanks to an overtime win over Nebraska. I think this game is going to be odd to get through, but I am going to take Minnesota to win this one and to get to 6 wins, and they'll be bowl eligible as well. And then we have Roll Tide taking on War Eagle. Well, what happened against Roll Tide last week is pretty much irrelevant. We need to talk about what happened to War Eagle, because not only did they lose to New Mexico State at home, they got destroyed by New Mexico State at home, and they lost $1.5 million doing it. So, I want to know, but I do have a bit of a conspiracy theory about War Eagle. I think they threw this game. I think they threw last week's game, because they could come into this game, if we keep this game close against Alabama. Now, let me just go ahead and put it out there. Alabama's going to win the game. But if Auburn keeps this close, this could hurt Alabama's resume when it comes to playoff discussion. I think Auburn might have played a little bit of sabotage by blowing that game against New Mexico State. Because I do believe that this one, it's going to be closer than what people think. Maybe 10 points. I don't expect a lot of scoring here. but I'm still expecting Roll Tide to win. Then we have the Battle of Washington. Wazoo taking on the Huskies. And the Huskies, even though their momentum has been petering down, luckily this game is at home. I am gonna roll with Washington to win, and if I recall, I think this is the final game for these two schools in the foreseeable future. I don't think Washington State is in a conference yet. And then we have the Battle of Florida, where the Florida State Seminoles taking on the Florida Gators. Florida State, even though they won against North Florida or North somebody, it came at a cost as Jordan Travis' career is over due to a broken leg. Get well soon. That's all we could say. In Florida, they could have got the bowl eligibility last week if they would have held the lead against Missouri. And now they're going to have to fight for it. Now, a lot of people are going to say, oh, Florida State got a backup QB. They're going to win. I mean, Florida might pull off the upset. But there are other things that made Florida State great outside of Jordan Travis. I think those elements are going to come out against the Florida Gators. It's going to be a close game. Yes, it is. But I am going to roll with the Noles to win. Then we have West Virginia taking on Baylor. Baylor's season has been a bit of a train wreck. I'm going to roll with West Virginia to win. Then we have Notre Dame taking on Stanford. Notre Dame had a big win against Wake. Stanford's season has been kind of underwhelming. I'm going to roll with Notre Dame to win. But hey, at least with Stanford moving to the ACC, at least this rivalry gets a little easier. Yay. Then we have Kansas taking on Cincinnati. Cincinnati's first Big 12 season has not gone the way they wanted. Kansas, yes, they lost 2 straight, but I do think they're going to go on the road to get the win. I'm going to roll with Kansas to win. And then we have the Battle of South Carolina, where the Gamecocks will take on the Tigers. The Gamecocks, they won 2 straight, and they need to beat Clemson somehow to get to bowl eligibility. But Clemson right now, things have been settling in for this school a little bit. Oh yeah, and by the way, I think I kind of messed up on here. It's going to be South Carolina's is at home and Clemson's on the road. But regardless of what that is, I'm going to take Clemson to win. I think because remember last year, Clemson lost to South Carolina. They blew a lead, and that was the game that got DJ Uiagalelei out of Clemson. But I think this year, Clemson's going to collect themselves, and they're going to get that revenge win over South Carolina. And then we have the Battle of Georgia, where the #1 ranked Bulldogs will take on the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. Yellow Jackets are already bowl eligible. Georgia, they just need to go unbeaten. And I'm going to take, and while I do think this is probably going to be a 7-7 or 14-14 first quarter, the Dogs are going to be barking after that. Because Georgia, they're on a mission. And I also will say this, if Georgia, say they win this game and they lose next week, I think either way Georgia's in. And following that, we have Iowa State taking on the Kansas State Wildcats. Both teams are bowl eligible. Both teams had semi-decent weeks. I am going to take, except for Iowa State, they lost to Texas. I'm going to take Kansas State to win. And then we have the Battle of North Carolina, where the Tar Heels taking on the Wolfpack. While one team is peaking after a slow start, the other team is valleying. North Carolina has not been looking good these past couple of weeks. I don't know, and I think part of my issue with this team is coaching, because it's been, with a team with Drake May and all the talent they have, they should be doing a lot better than what they are. And State, they're nowhere near the talented level North Carolina is, but they still find ways to get. They're beginning to find ways to get it done. They are one of the hotter teams in the ACC, and because they're one of the hotter teams, and as much as I hate doing this, I'm gonna roll Penn State to win. They're third in a row in this rivalry. And then we have the final iteration of these two teams. The California Bears taking on UCLA. California need this win to get to bowl eligibility. UCLA got a big win over USC. I'm going to roll with UCLA to win because they might be feeding off the momentum of that. And then we have the game. Not the game of the week, just the game. We have the Ohio State Buckeyes taking on the Michigan Wolverines. And to the surprise of no one, this is obviously my game of the week. Ohio State only given up 6 points in the last 2 weeks. Their defense has been great for them. Michigan, on the other hand, yes, they're getting wins, but they've been looking shaky at best. I mean, they barely escaped Maryland with their lives. And I don't know how much of their off-season distractions have gotten to them this year, or especially these past couple of weeks. But whoever wins this game, this is really the Big Ten championship game, because whoever wins, they're gonna probably going to destroy Iowa. Who cares? And as for my winning pick, as much as I want to take Michigan at home, I got to go with Ohio State. Their defense is legit good. So those are my picks for Rivalry Week. I know I kind of went long, but hey, Rivalry Week deserves a lot of attention. Tell me what y'all think in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.